The humble DVD. Why does it still exist exactly? That is the question I'm going to pose today. And I'm going to give you an answer, and that's what I'm going to explain in this video. Now, a lot of people are like, hold on, DVD is cheaper, so that's why it still survives. But the difference between a DVD and Blu-ray brand new is not necessarily all that much. It's usually about $5 to $10 more between even the 4K and the DVD. But why is it still surviving? Well, I looked up some stats earlier on Screen Australia's website, and now this is the Australian stats. I'm not going for the worldwide stats, but it showed pretty consistently from about 1999, or 2002 I'll say, because I think the stats were 2002, from about 2002 down to about 2008 or something, DVD players have been consistently selling about 1 to 2 million units each year in Australia, which our population is obviously a lot smaller. I think ours is now currently about 25 million or something like that. So, that's a good portion of Australia that had access to DVD. And if you look by comparison, because Screen Australia do have stats on their website, I think the years that Screen Australia count, Blu-ray players were selling about something like 500,000. So it's not anywhere close in terms of accessibility. Now, Blu-ray players were obviously more expensive. We remember the launch of the PS3. It wasn't like PS2 where it was accessible and you got games, but you also got your player and it was a cheap little bundle. PS3, when it launched, it was about $800. And you might say, oh, but isn't that what PS5 costs now? Different eras. PS3 was unheard of to be that expensive when it launched, So a lot of people got in for the PS2, and a lot of people also had CRT, the older televisions, or they had televisions that were 720p and didn't have those options of going to, 4K and 1080p and all these other things. They're like, you know what? I can't even see a difference between a Blu-ray and a DVD. Why would I go and buy a Blu-ray when I can just have the DVD? And there is literally no difference on my TV. And for those who are wondering, oh, no one has those TVs anymore. Literally, I know people in my family who still use a TV that is 720p, and they love it. So, it is something that is still out there in the public. Maybe your parents, maybe your grandparents, maybe your elders, so many people, maybe your friends, aunties, people use that format and love those TVs. And because technology, people still stand by plasma and people still stand by CRT. People don't think they need to run out and pay $3,000 for an OLED. And OLED is seen as the high-end screen format at the moment. Some people say QLED and all these other things, but you're still paying $1,000 for a new TV. A lot of people who don't have that sort of money to run out say, why would I run out and buy a new TV when my old TV works? Like, it's still working. And yes, we do produce a lot of e-waste when we upgrade, because a lot of people just go like, oh, I don't need this old thing anymore. So a lot of people stick with their TVs, and if it's not broken, why fix it, But also, I want to talk about the whole aura of DVD. Now, I have went out and bought some DVDs recently. Like, obviously, my collection's already built, but I've been doing a few things. So I've been ripping a lot of movies at the moment off Make MKV for my old CRT television, because I'm trying to do a curation thing. I'm working on a long-term project that I'm hoping I'll show you at some point. But it's for, like, essentially building my own channel that I can... It's like my own curated version of what I want to watch. But what I'm using is I'm using the 4:3 aspect ratio DVDs, like here's Children of the Corn 3. That is in what's called full frame, 4:3 aspect ratio. And sorry if you can hear that banging, but some people are doing renovations and they've been doing it very consistently. So, I've been ripping the full screen 4:3 aspect ratio DVDs because they just simply aren't available on Blu-ray. Like, DVD did have multiple experiences. I also bought these recently. I bought Terminator 2 this Steelbook thing from DVD era. Now, obviously, I've talked about Terminator 2 transfers being kind of hit and miss over the years. But it's the first time I saw this metal case, but also I saw this version of Terminator 2 that has DTS audio on it. Like, that is pretty cool. And I know people say, Dolby X or DTS X or whatever on 4K or whatever. I know people talk about the audio formats, but this one I was like, I need to see how the DTS looks. And likewise, I also picked up a couple of Jurassic Park DTS DVDs. Now, obviously, people talk about Jurassic Park DTS. It is closer to the cinematic sound. This is the first pressing one I got, by the way, so all discretion. This one is, the way you can tell them apart is you can essentially go, okay, this one has PEMC D2R1, which means like pressing 1, and DTR2 I believe is the second pressing that they fixed. Now obviously the difference between the two is one lacks bass, which that one does lack somewhat of the bass. I have tested it, and the second one corrects that. So from what I hear, the second one is the version you want, but I can't find that version for the life of me. That one, even with the bass kind of like compromised or whatever it is, it's still got bass on there, but it's not as evident, you know. Even with that error, it still sounds superior to the 4K Blu-rays for some reason. And this is the thing. Experiences of DVDs are greater than what's available on 4K, because 4K is pretty generic. It's kind of like, oh, this is Austin Powers. This is the international version. I bought this one recently. It's a pretty cool cover too. Look at that. I don't know if that's going to shine too much on there. I'll just wiggle it around a bit so the light can catch it. But, you know, I bought that recently. But that would be the international version, and it would be one size fits all, essentially. Whereas DVDs, you can go, okay, did you want the full frame? Or did you want the widescreen? Or did you want the DTS? Or did you want the blah? You know, there's so many different ways to watch DVD. Now, also, I've heard some questions in the community about how did DVD beat VHS? Well, essentially, look, VHS at its core is a big, bulky tape. It uses a lot of things to produce. Whereas if you look at something like DVD, it's a disc, you know, print a disc, you can upscale production much faster. So the cost of also the technology, obviously DVD can hold more information. But it's a no-brainer that DVD won over VHS because newer format, better quality, cheaper to produce, meaning the cost can go lower. And, you know, that's a big home run for why people will move towards DVD. When we got to Blu-ray, it was a new technology, but a lot of people didn't see the value in it. And also storage space. I mean, look at the size of a VHS compared to a DVD. And then, you know, essentially Blu-ray kept the covers so big. It's almost like a one-to-one, you know? It's almost like they really should have shrunk the cases a little bit. Look at it, one-to-one. You know, essentially it's only taken a little bit off the top, but, you know, people didn't really see a difference between the footprint in terms of, like, storing a collection. Now, DVD survives continuously because there are so many copies out there. You can go into a place like the Salvation Army or Goodwill or wherever you do your shopping in the secondhand market, and you can probably pick up a pretty good collection of DVDs for maybe $100 if you wanted to buy like 100 or something. You could get them for like $1 a piece is what I'm saying, or even cheaper sometimes. Some people say, oh, I got a bag of them for like $1 or something. You know, there are ways to collect, and there are people who go and say, yeah, I got a bag of my collection for super cheap. Now, people do go into JB Hi-Fi and still buy, because, as I said, there are still older people on older TVs who look at the price and say, yeah, I kind of do want this movie. I'm more comfortable paying $15 to $20 instead of $31 or $40 for the Blu-ray or 4K. Now, obviously, some Blu-rays are $25. Sometimes they come out very similarly priced. But then you look at the players. Obviously, people are like, oh, but I don't want to upgrade my player. I don't want to upgrade my TV. I just want something that will work with what I've got set up already. And people will stick to the formats to the bitter end. I mean, I've got a couple of wrestling things over here, and this is another thing. As more things go online and more things get changed, music rights for old sporting events and so on change. You look at stuff over here, and you can easily grab, like, I don't know, what's this one? In Your House. So this one has the Final Four and Canadian Stampede. But, you know, there'll be, like, music on there that wouldn't otherwise be on the network or on what's going to be Netflix or whatever. You know, things change over time, and as things move between formats, you can essentially see something that is like, okay, I've got this version of it on a new format, but some of the music was taken out. We see that in remasters all the time. Like, look at the gaming industry. Look at remasters like GTA Vice City. Obviously, Michael Jackson is no longer on there because the Michael Jackson catalog would have went up significantly to license. Sorry, I'm going to get my words right. But, you know, the Michael Jackson catalog went up significantly since he passed. So obviously they're not going to be able to get beated, or, you know, any of the certain songs are taken out of that game. And it loses part of its aura when it happens. But also, for a game that may only sell a few million, I don't think Rockstar's going to run around and say, it's just a remaster, just put it on something. We don't want to have to pay like it's a brand new game. There's even songs that were on like GTA 5 that didn't make it across to the newer versions. You know, there are certain aspects of why the original pressing is always the best pressing, and it's the more in line with what the intended version of it was. Now, going back to DVD, I have a lot of things here. Like, obviously, I have the Yu-Gi-Oh! Season sets here, but you can see right beside it, I've got a couple of individual ones just because I found them cheap enough, and I was like, you know what, I'll add them to my collection because it's cheap enough. I can grab a couple of them and it would make sense. I've got Evangelion here. I've got Neon Genesis, so, you know, it makes sense to have that because that is how it would have aired on TV back in the day. As a lot of people know, I have a big Dragon Ball Z collection, and that's because these individual releases, let's just grab one off here. I think this one's probably my favorite. Where's 11th Hour? I'll just grab 11th Hour because that's my favorite release. That's the one I remember going to the video shop days to rent. And yeah, I think that's 11th Hour. I think it is. Let's just have a look. Try not to drop everything, obviously. That's Super Saiyan Goku. Give me a second, guys. 11th Hour, there it is. That's the one where Goku rises from the water, Gohan returns, that episode. But this is 4:3 aspect ratio, and it's got the original broadcast audio. So in terms of the English original broadcast audio, and people say, but it's got the broadcast audio on the Blu-rays and the season sets and the orange bricks and all that, hasn't it? No, they went back and redubbed some of the older stuff. Like, obviously, even in these ones where Funimation was doing it, and Sean Schimmel and Chris Sabat and all that were doing the voices for the orange bricks and so on, they did go back and dump some lines like, Cell, once again, you have underestimated the power of a true Saiyan warrior. That, I don't believe, was in the original. I think there is a certain line, because I was watching it back and I was like, hold on one second, where's the line? And I didn't remember that. Oh, yeah, that's actually an added line over time. Or, I don't know if it was that exact line, but if you watch that sequence, there are lines missing that were added in later for the orange bricks. But that's more in line with the original broadcast. And, you know, these are the little things you look at. Obviously, Star Wars, you can't get certain versions of Star Wars on newer formats. Now, these are the limited editions that borrow stuff from the Laserdiscs. I put a couple in here because I had a couple of copies, so I just kind of stored it all in one place. But, you know, the bonus disc of An Empire Strikes Back holds the original one, even though it was transferred from Laserdisc. Now, there are people out there online who say, oh, but I can get that on, you know, 4K, blah, on whatever. Now, I will give credit to some people out there. The community is good at restoring some things. Like, there are people who took the Laserdisc DTS version of Jurassic Park and synced it up to the 4K or, like, the Blu-ray version. So, you know, there are good things happening in the community. There are the Star Wars fans who found a film reel of the original trilogy, rescanned it, and they call it 4K 77, but it's as close to the original as you can possibly get in a 4K resolution. So, you know, there are a lot of good things out there in the community happening online. But I know people will say, oh, but I can put almost everything on my hard drive, you know? I get it. I get everyone can house everything on a hard drive. I get it. But you don't get the experience of grabbing something off the shelf like Kenny vs. Spenny. I do have season 1, but I've just got it in the second room now because I'm going to rip it eventually and put it all onto my hard drive so I can watch it on my CRT and, like, format it in a certain way so it'll look fucking great on there. I said friggin'. I didn't swear. But, you know... I love Kenny vs. Spenny, and I'm hoping Kenny Hots, I think Kenny's teased it a couple of times that he may be working on a Blu-ray or even a 4K. Like, I would love to see that, and the moment that happens, I'll still keep these versions around for sentimental value, but, like, I would instantly upgrade. I want the best version, but also I want both versions, you know? It makes sense. But there's certain things that you just don't get with the newer formats. Yes, it's more expensive to get into Blu-ray and 4K, but you can essentially cater your experience and say, you know what, I don't want to go and buy at JB Hi-Fi. I want to go and find Married with Children. Now, there are 2 versions of Married with Children. I've got a version up the top there that is Sony released that gets rid of Love and Marriage by Frank Sinatra. The Mills Creek ones, this one has the original Love and Marriage, but it's at a lower compression rate, higher compression rate. So they fit more episodes in a disc, but the episodes don't look as great on a modern TV. So what I've done is I've ripped some of those and put them onto a CRT where it's not going to really matter because you're getting a certain amount of resolution, and it's not, you'll still notice some compression, but it's not going to be as evident as like putting it on a 4K screen, you know? But yeah, some of these things are why I believe DVD still slays in 2024 or moving into 2025, you know? In the 2020s era, we are still watching these, you know? And there are just some things that just didn't make it across. That's the one I want to end on. Like, obviously, I mean, things, I'm sure this had one move across at some point. Spice World. Found that on VHS, and I was like, you know what? That's pretty cool. I'm going to pick that up. I know that's probably had a release on DVD at some point. I know that. But there are a lot of stuff that just don't make it across to the newer formats. There's stuff that's on VHS that never made it to DVD, Blu-ray, or even 4K. There's stuff on DVD that didn't make it to Blu-ray or 4K. There's stuff on Blu-ray that didn't make it to 4K, you know? There's constantly this thing of preservation, but also there are, like, as I said, I looked it up a bit more. In a previous video, I talked about Dangerous Minds. Now, I did look up Dangerous Minds recently. I did look it up because I was like, was I factual when I said it wasn't released in America either? And I looked it up, and there was a listing on Bluray.com, but I don't think they ever released that on Blu-ray. One of Michelle Pfeiffer's best movies is not on Blu-ray. Now, I'm sure it's on digital. I'm sure it's somewhere on iTunes or whatever. But that's one of those movies where that really needed to be... Look, if they don't want to put it out, who did that one? That was... Let's have a look. Who did this one? Was that Hollywood Pictures? So who owns Hollywood Pictures now? I forget. But that's something that they could give to a Criterion, and that would sell really well, you know? Or like a Arrow Video or something. One of the niche labels, if they don't want to put it out themselves, they should give it to someone. But, you know, there are so much that just didn't make it across, and this is why so many people go back to DVD, because they're like, I want to watch my favorite movie, but I don't want to watch it on streaming. And streaming is not the be-all, end-all of anything. Like, I'm sure people are like, why'd you have to stream it all? Like, I have it on Netflix, I have it on there. Well, I don't agree with having every bit of your information on a streaming service. Jumping between multiple streaming services to get everything you want. Now people say hard drives. Yeah, well, you still have to buy hard drives, and also I like to put money back into the industry, so also that. I like to support the industry that I love, and I love to put money back in, you know. And also it's cheap enough. It's not like I'm breaking the bank to go out and buy DVDs, you know. But this is the thing. So many people are like, okay, why wouldn't you just watch it on streaming? Like I talked about in a previous thing on the social medias. I'll just grab them over here so I can show you. Let me grab these off the shelf. Halo. I picked up Halo. I paid $115 for this one because there was not a release of this in Australia at the time. Now it's obviously got a release since. But that's also the steelbook. I was like, yeah, I'll pay that much for a steelbook. If it was a standard edition, I would have been like, nah, I don't really want to pay that. But the steelbook looked cool, and it'll look good on the shelf when I eventually do move out and upgrade the collection and have things on display. That'll look great on a shelf, a limited edition steelbook. I also got this one. I paid $115 for that. And I paid about $66 for this in the sales when, you know, when JV Hi-Fi had their sales. So it's usually about 90 something, but I got it for like 66. And, you know, I haven't watched them. I also had this version from the DVD, the Blu-ray days. So I did pick it up a couple of years ago and didn't ever get around to watching it. But I like the curation aspect of this. Like, I do collect things to have in the collection. And yes, I don't know if I'm going to like Halo. I don't know if I'm not going to like Halo. But my collection is a curation, and a lot of collectors curate their collections to be a reflection of themselves. People go and get tattoos to reflect their self and pay $1,000 for tattoos. People go and pay 50 grand for a car to drive around and say, look at me, how good I am. You know, there's so many people competing with each other and trying to say, this is me and look how good I am. Well, I'm kind of doing that with Blu-ray and DVD and all that, you could argue, but also I'm not competing with other people. I'm just like, you know what? I feel like I'm going to like Halo. People might say, you're not going to like Halo. I might. And if I do, I want it in my collection. And even if I don't, I want it in my collection because I believe it looks cool. And also, I believe it is a reflection of my personality as a collector. And the era I came from, where I was a fan of movie collecting and going into Video Easy and browsing for hours on end to find those perfect 5 weeklies that you could just have for a week and watch, you know? that's the closest we're going to get to it. And as the era has gone away, I don't think it's ever going to come back. So that is the closest I can get to it. And these are some reasons why physical media still exists overall. But as for DVD, it's about the experience. You can pick and choose your experience. And everything that gets transferred to streaming isn't necessarily the best way to watch it. You can choose other ways with DVD. Even with Blu-ray, you can choose other ways. And physical media gives you the option to say, I don't like the Terminator 2 transfer, so I'm going to go back and watch the Blu-ray. And I don't like the Blu-ray transfer, so I'm going to go back and watch DVD. And I don't like the DVD transfer, so I'm going to go back and watch Laserdisc in terms of Jurassic Park, you know? There are so many versions out there that you can choose on physical media. And DVD is the king of it because it's so readily available. It's not like you have to go online and try to find someone who sells laser discs for the Jurassic Park and pay $1,000 for the Matrix on Laserdisc, which is insane, but I get why it is. It's one of those laser discs. It's not like, you know, it's not like other formats like VHS where horror's going up and that, and it's harder to get now. DVD, you can literally walk into most shops and they'll have like a good range of DVDs, sometimes for cents, you know? So, you know, it makes more sense for a lot of new collectors and also older collectors who are just like, well, I've got a bunch of DVDs already and I don't want to change the look. I don't want to have covers that go up, down, you know? And as you can hear the renovations, I think that's my time to wrap up. So, thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe, watch a video over here, and yeah, leave a comment, and check out the socials, and check out everything, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.